All right, we're gonna get started. Uh, so welcome everybody. This is gonna be our first attempt to stream one of these sessions, so bear with us if it gets a little strange. We are gonna have a walk around mic that we're gonna bring around to people in the audience when they want to ask questions. So but we are gonna do this session a little bit different than last time because this one has a hard end to it, whereas the last one I could go longer. We are gonna flip the order in which items are done. We're going to do the one-on-one conversations first, where we talk about specific scopes, and then we'll do the open Q&A piece at the end. That way we can make sure everybody that wants to do the one-on-one conversation has an opportunity to do that to the fullest. So before that, just for everybody that wasn't here last time and is unaware, just kind of a quick recap. So these sessions are intended to help citizens understand what a forensic audit is, what it's used for, how it could benefit the city, what the city's plans look like, but also for us to identify scopes for those audits so that we can actually move forward with them, how they actually work. So a quick overview. There are many different types of audits. The two most common types of audits are a financial audit. That's what occurs every year with the city. It's the one that was presented 2 meetings ago. Up here, that audit is designed entirely to ensure that all of your financial information is in the correct account, not to review for any fraud or anything unless it is big enough that it reaches a materiality threshold. Materiality means that it's so big that if it's wrong, it would make the whole financial statements wrong. So that's what they're looking for there. And they don't review everything. They take samples that give them a 95% confidence interval. I won't try and explain confidence intervals because honestly, nobody wants that headache. But that lets them say that they're within a 95% accuracy of that. And they can go further than that. There are 98% intervals, 99% intervals, 99.5, and it goes on. Each one requires significantly more review to reach that level of confidence. But we're not teaching statistics and no one's paying me to do that. So beyond that, so that's what the financial audit does, right? It reviews all those things, makes recommendations on how to improve our internal controls and all the processes that we do, all of our policies to ensure that we're doing the actual accounting part right. That's the one that had all the adjusting journal entries associated with it and all the findings that said you need to improve your internal controls, you need to improve your policies. That is being tracked online. We are still working on getting that updated and reposted, but it is being tracked online. You can see the outline for it up there now. So that's where you'll be able to track all of those. The next major type that would be relevant to the city is a forensic audit. There are many other types, but for our purposes tonight, we're just going to talk about the two. A forensic audit is fundamentally different in that it focuses on a single, fully identified scope, right? Set number of years, set topic, set range of dollars potentially, set people, but it's a very defined specific scope. And then it will review everything in that scope, every single occurrence that is within that scope. And even beyond that, if it finds anything that isn't set up and followed ideally, it will then follow beyond that to try and reach out to, like if we have a missing receipt from Lowe's, let's say, it'll actually contact Lowe's to see if it can get a copy of that receipt. It'll contact the employee that supposedly did that receipt, right? So it goes, and then it could even go further than that if depending on what it finds. A forensic audit does look for fraud specifically. It is trying to find fraud. Not always criminal fraud. It could be, civil fraud, because again, there's variances on what classifies as civil versus criminal. But yes, it is explicitly trying to find fraud in whatever limited scope you give it. Forensic audits, as a result of looking at every single thing in a scope, are vastly more expensive on an audit by audit basis than if financial audit is. So just that's one kind of intrinsic piece of it. They take a lot longer to do per item. And so they are more expensive for the amount of information that's being looked at. Beyond that, a forensic audit can also return a result of, hey, there's a lot of stuff that's missing, but not necessarily fraud, right? It's not the auditor's determination to say, this information is like, you're missing these 12 receipts to back up these purchases. If those receipts don't exist, they're not available from the entity you purchased it from. They're not available from the employee that made the purchase. It notes them as missing and a problem, but it does not classify them as fraud because it can't know if they're fraud or not. At least that's unclassified. And then at that point, it's up to the entity receiving the audit or law enforcement to determine what they want to do with that. An example would be if a missing receipt is there for a Medicare or Medicaid purchase, those federal entities have determined that that is fraud if you don't have the backup receipt. And so they will charge it as such. We don't do a lot of those types of expenses here for obvious reasons. We're not the federal government. But I don't know all of the different variations of what each one classifies as what on that, but they would come back classified as just missing, not necessarily criminal, because the audit cannot make that determination without the information to do that. The audit will also not actually charge people. Again, that's not the audit or the auditor's purview. It is to provide that information, and then that information goes to law enforcement entities that would make that determination. That's not part of the audit. Doesn't also come with lawyers that then do the charging and all of that. So just kind of walking everybody through that piece real quick. So what we're going to do before we kind of answer general questions is, if you would like to have a one-on-one conversation about a specific area you would like looked at, right? There is a sign-up sheet in the back. If you sign in, you'll get a number. You'll come up here. We're going to talk one-on-one for however long we need to within reason. I'm going to make sure that we don't have like an hour and a half conversation, given that's all the time we have total. But we are going to talk one-on-one. During that time, all we ask is that everybody else just be respectful, right? This is intended to be a one-on-one conversation between two people. You're welcome to listen. We will have mics for both people so everybody can hear. That goes for anybody online as well. But we just ask that you be respectful during that time. And then once that conversation ends, we'll call the next number up and we'll get through all of the one-on-ones first. And then if there is time left over at the end, which I'm guessing there's going to be, although I suspect we'll get people coming in continuously throughout the meeting, then we'll open it up for some Q&A questions still built around this topic. I do want to let people know that this is a forum and a style that we are going to try and keep going in the future for lots of different topics. We've already scheduled the next set about the new ordinance around water and sewer rates to have 2 sessions as well. That'll be in this format. If there's anything, we are still iterating on the format to make sure that we can, stream it well, get all those different pieces up and working. So if you have any suggestions for us at the end, please let me know. And we will see what we can do about incorporating those things. But yeah, we are trying to make this kind of a normal thing, a way that we can interact with citizens and provide detailed information and answer specific questions for everyone in that way. And it's not always finance. There will be other departments that will be part of it as well. It's starting with me because that's what people wanted the most. So with that being said, we're going to start with the one-on-one. So number 1 can come up. Okay.
So if people aren't aware, you could maybe pay attention to that, because if they're not directly in that mic at home, you can barely hear it.
Yeah, we'll listen to make sure of that.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Nice to see you again.
Nice seeing you.
I will let it be known that I have not gotten through everything in the in your previous document, but it is right here on my review list. So
No worries. That was one of my questions, so I'm glad we got to that. So yeah, I just came with just a set of questions to keep it a little bit time constrained.
Yeah.
I appreciate that time the other day. So yeah, we'll get right to it then. Just to leave out speculation and just confirm some stuff. I'm still on the topic of the restricted funds.
sure.
So, and I can give you a copy. I can email you a copy of this. So, for your notes later on. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So, last meeting, October 22nd, it was stated, city treated those restricted funds as if they were general funds. Today, though, you still stand by that, for the hot taxes, the impact fees, and any other restricted revenues?
So that would be my interpretation of what happened. Again, from a criminal perspective, we talked about this last time.
Sure.
Remember, not every bill has what it is written on it.
Right.
So the little bit of money that does still exist in the bank, in a criminal court could be claimed that those are the restricted funds. And so I don't think there's a criminal, at least not a significant criminal charge that would be chargeable. I do think
Right.
much more likely a civil thing could be there, but then you get into, is it worth the time and money that it costs to do a civil?
Gotcha. No problem. So as far as the pooled cash, it's never recommended. That's what we talked about last time. About 3.5 years ago. Can you confirm today when the pooling actually did begin? It does look about 22, 21-ish area,
Yeah,
but
I would have to go back and get you an exact date. I am uncertain on when they officially pooled the cash. I don't know how far that goes back.
any idea who authorized that, or, was it council approved? I didn't see anything, so that's why I'm asking.
Again, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know, other than, again, I know it's super not recommended, and unless
Right.
you are incredibly diligent, it should never be done.
Absolutely.
But I don't know who technically authorized it. My guess is council would have had to authorize something like that, but if it happened 20 years ago, it might, again, it's tough. Without knowing the
Hard to find.
exact dates, it's tough for me to speculate on exactly
No problem.
what process that went through.
No problem. I'm just asking these questions to kind of support why I'm asking for that forensic audit.
Yep.
So let's get into the acknowledgement of restricted funds must be separately maintained. Interest-bearing accounts and said separation is planned, but cash is tight.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that last time. So again, as it's today, which restricted funds, is that hot impact tiers or whatever they may be? Do they still remain in this pooled cash account, the consolidated cash account?
So tiers has been pulled out.
Okay.
That is separated.
Okay.
All of the COs are still separated. They didn't mix, which is thankful. And ARPA is separated.
Okay.
Beyond that, it is only small ones that are separated. So seizure, seizure account, like drug seizure,
Right.
the library memorial fund. I'm trying to remember all of the ones that have separate funds. I think those are the other two that are explicitly already separated. We are working to separate the others. Again, the issue is to create a new account, I have to have money to put
Right.
in that account so we don't pay fees. And I'm just not at a place where I'm super comfortable that we have that level of cash to
Right.
do that. But we are, as soon as the funds are available and I feel like we have the cash position to start splitting funds, we will split them. We will split them in smallest to largest.
Okay.
So funds like the Keep the Mark Beautiful Fund, Park Fund, right? The ones that are in the like tens of thousands or single thousands, those would be split first because those would be the easiest to fund,
Right.
right? Hot tax, which should be in the hundreds of thousands, and lastly would be the enterprise or utility fund, because that should be in the multi-millions, that's going to take a long time for us to be in a position where we can fully split that out and have it be fully refunded. Unfortunately, I can't split out a fund and then create a interfund loan agreement
Right.
because that is technically an illegal thing to do with these funds.
I think we talked about that
So-
last time. Yeah.
Some of the options we would normally have, we don't have available to us in that way.
Mhm.
But we are working on it. My goal is that by the end of the year that you'll see a few of them at least partially split out in a way where people can see that they have been split out. I just want to see what our finances look like when we get a little further. November and December are going to be by far the two tightest months because we won't have had any taxes come in yet to help cover costs. So it's only the additional revenues that we've been able to bring in and the ones we have deals to bring in that'll be available at that time based on the information we have. And so those are just going to be super tight. So you might not see, my hope is you'll see some in December that I'll feel comfortable enough to do that.
Mhm.
But it's very possible you won't see any split out new accounts until like late January when we actually get the large chunk of funds from property tax. And I can actually start splitting those out.
Gotcha. That actually kind of answers, the remaining questions for that section. I'll let it go with that, step-by-step plans and all that. So last discussion we had, said, we can't trust all the information in the accounting system.
Yeah,
get it.
I believe all the audit adjusting entries are more than enough justification for my position there.
Right. And so, reconciliations must be done before the next audit, obviously.
Correct.
What is the reconciliation schedule? Who's assigned? What specific cutoff dates? Can you certify or can you answer? I know.
I can give
It's
a broad overview.
Sure.
So the first reconciliation that actually has to get done is reconciling what's in the system at the end of last fiscal year to
Mhm.
what the audit says should be there.
Okay.
Right. We've made the adjusting journal entries, but that doesn't mean that the other information in the system was right beyond that. Right. We don't know if they made adjusting journal entries in prior years. We don't know
Right.
a lot of those things. So the first reconciliation needs to be reconcile our system to the audit that was just completed, which is for 23-24. So that's reconciliation number one. After that, we then have to reconcile every fund, both cash, AP, AR, each month through all of fiscal year 25. So that is a large number of reconciliations. Some easier than others, right? Small funds are pretty simple to reconcile.
Mhm.
Big funds are much more complicated to reconcile. Although it's not always. The difficulty of reconciliation is specifically about the amount of like activity in the fund. So like impact fees actually might not be that difficult to reconcile
Right.
if there weren't any projects that were using that and it was just the regular receipt of impact fees into an account. That might actually not be that difficult to reconcile. The general fund and the utility fund specifically will be extraordinarily difficult to reconcile.
Right.
Given the lack of quality data that was put in to begin with. So those reconciliations need to be done. We have to finish all of the reconciliations for fiscal year 25 before the audit can proceed
Gotcha.
for that fiscal year. We have a outstanding position that we are trying to hire. We brought it to council. The EDC offered us additional funding to help fund that position. It was on 2 or 3 council meetings. I forget exactly which council meeting it's on, but it was approved through council. So that position is entirely dedicated to reconciliations until they're all caught up. We have not hired that position. I don't know if we're going to be able to hire that position. If we cannot, and we will know if we can't hire that position in the next week and a half, my plan is to come to council with either an RFP or RFQ for outside audit services, consulting audit services, consulting accounting services, let me be more accurate, to go out and use the money we would have used for that position to pay for an audit firm to come in and perform those functions. It is a time issue. It's not if we had infinite time, we could do it in-house, but we don't have infinite time.
Right.
And so to ensure that that gets done and we can get the new audit started, that would be what we would go to council with on the November 10th or November, I forget what date, the 10th or the 8th, whichever.
Pretty soon.
Yes, which is why
Okay.
I said if we haven't hired in a week and a half, we would
Awesome.
do that. So that's the strategy. That's the plan. We are very committed to doing whatever it takes to make sure that we are starting the audit by mid of January at the latest, to ensure that we can finish on time.
Right.
My hope is to do it sooner. But I am limited by the amount of people and hours we have in the day to kind of work through those things. And the two staff I have easily 40 hours worth of work just to try and keep current stuff up and running. And I already am working well over 40. So there's just an unfortunate limit on that piece. But yeah, that's the process. We'll make sure everybody's aware. We do have the tracking of all not all we combined some of them into groups, but there's a tracking sheet online as well for the recons as on the same spreadsheet.
Okay.
So it's got
Is that like a live document or is that just updated?
unfortunately it's not a live document.
Okay.
I have not figured out how to do a live a document on that yet. So basically what happens is I have a copy in my desktop that I update and then I send to our communications and IT to put it to basically re-upload it on the website every so often. I did not get a chance to do that for this meeting for the stuff from last meeting. So anybody that's looking, that's why it's not there. You can blame me. I did not have time to get that done. But it is there. And my goal is to ensure it's updated before every council meeting, similar timing to when we do agendas and the public sending of documents. That way everybody can review it in the same kind of time. If I can find time to do it once a week, I will do it once a week, but I don't want to promise something that I cannot guarantee I'll be able to keep up with.
Right. Okay. Kind of going back then, trying to identify the bank accounts that received restricted revenues. Again, we have the 3 in front of us, but all accounts from which operating disbursements were made during 22, 25 in that time period that you're aware of. I know it's a lot.
Yeah. So the vast majority of funds that came in from a revenue side go into the consolidated pooled account. There are some funds that when we receive credit card payments for utility bills,
Mm-hmm.
they actually come into a different account, but then get transferred into the consolidated pool account.
Okay.
So it's not really, it still ends up in the pooled account. The reason they have a separate account they come into has to deal with complicated intricacies of bringing in credit cards.
Right.
And then there is another account that is used to pay for like our funds that we send to TMRS, which is the Texas Municipal Retirement System, the retirement for employees. So there's an actual employee benefits account that is used to pay those or other insurance premiums, but that money gets transferred from the pooled cash to that account and paid out. It doesn't actually keep a balance, and it's not required to go out that way either. It's just used for that purpose. But other than that, all the funds that come in go into the pooled cash account, unless they are a grant fund. So grant funds come into like ARPA sits in its own ARPA account. And then there's an account, it's at Texas Class, I want to say. That's all of our ARPA funds, and they just stay separate. When we want to write a check out of ARPA, we do then transfer those into the pooled account to write a check, because I don't have a separate ARPA checking account to write that check out of. But there is a transfer that clearly matches
Right.
that transaction. The same is true for like GLO grants, the police grants, fire grants, those types of things. There's a transfer that comes in that is tied to the specific grant packet
Mhm.
that we're using to determine payment, and then that amount is paid out through that one checking account. Again, that's a limitation of we only have so many accounts we can write checks from,
Right.
and so they don't have. There's just not separate checking accounts built for those things.
Gotcha. So what is your proposed tracing method to determine, the point of which general fund cash ran out and restricted cash began to be consumed, if you have one?
So the easiest way and the way that I intend to do it is to basically once we match the numbers to the audit that was completed, right, the fiscal year 24 audit, we will then go transaction by transaction through the system, not just cash, but all the APs, ARs, and all of that, and we will go through and say, okay, this transaction is good. And so that would be like journal entries, and all the journal entries should have backup documentation of why they were done, like, and all of that. So we will go through all of those and we'll validate that all of those are correct. And that's how we're going to do that each month prior to the recon. And then the recon should ensure that that matches what happened on the actual cash side, what happened on the AP side, what happened on the AR side. And it's just going to be a slow, painful process. But we'll have to pull every piece of documentation for each one of those to try to tie it to what it goes to. If we are unable to determine, that's where I'll have to start making calls, like to actual entities, to figure out what this was that was done.
Right. Gotcha. So you guys are committed to that and, producing that transaction universe, exports and so forth.
Yes. So we've already produced all the journal entries online. So that's one of the documents that's on the transparency site is every journal entry for the fiscal year through August, the end of August. September, because it's the end of our fiscal year, always takes longer. There's always a lot of extra stuff that happens at the end of the fiscal year. Because you're not closing a month, you're closing the whole fiscal year. So, making sure all the bills get put in the right fiscal year, you give that a longer breadth than you would making sure all the bills get put in the right month, because that's not all that important. I mean, it's valuable, but it's not like it doesn't actually affect your financial statements. Whereas at the end of the year, it actually does affect your financial statements. You need to make sure that all the bills associated with work that occurred in that fiscal year are tied to that fiscal year. So like we have to wait for all the bills to come in. And then we have to do adjusting journal entries, closing out POs, closing out any AP that's, a partial or any of those checks that haven't been cashed, those kinds of things, cleaning all that up. That takes a little longer, which is why September always takes a little longer. But all the journal entries will be up there. We will then create as we start making changes, we'll put those out as well for that fiscal year. And we'll show everybody what those are and the changes that were made, so that anybody that wants to review all that is welcome to follow along. My recommendation would be if you want to go to sleep, you can start looking at that, but otherwise it's probably a bit much for a regular person to go through just for fun. Although you will learn a lot.
Yes.
Not always the right thing, but you will learn a lot.
Right.
But all that will be out there. And then as we catch further up and get to where we have additional time, again, as we talked a little bit about last time, we are going to create like a hub for each fiscal year that will then allow you to click on that fiscal year, break it out, so then you can pick what type of thing you're wanting to look at, whether it's budget to actual, journal entries, trial balances, cash statements, those kinds of things. And then we're going to go back through at least 2020. It is going to take time for us to kind of build all that out and get all that put out, but it is coming. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of value in going beyond that and making it out there in public. But if there's demand for it, then we'll go back further than that. And going forward, we'll also have the same, obviously. And then we are working still to try and figure out what we can and can't put out. So like we mentioned last time, credit cards is something we're working on. I feel confident we'll be able to put that information out. I just haven't figured out the exact form that we can put it out so that people can can fully see that yet. But yeah, there's going to be, our goal is that anything you want, you'll already be able to find out
Okay.
on the website, that
Yes.
we can, again, that we can legally put out there.
Right, right. So next question. So again, it was stated you cannot create an interfund loan agreement to repay restricted funds. We did discuss that. We mentioned it again today. Were any journal entries or offsets used in that way, in substance, treated restricted funds as temporary bridge for operations? If so, are you aware of any?
I am unaware of any, but I can also say I have not dug deep into that.
Okay.
As we talked about, most of my time has been spent trying to keep the city open and ensure that going forward, we're both viable and actually have some controls. So I've not spent a whole lot of time going back and digging into, at that level. The answer, I don't know what I will find. I have fears, but I don't know what I will find.
Right, right. Okay, we'll just move on. Trying to not take up all the time. So again, we discussed hot balances were likely in the hundreds of thousands last time in that range. And that some hot expenditures, may have been used for general operations, for, year 23 through 25. Can you, I guess, provide those hot fund payees amounts and purpose descriptions, if not now, then within the plan going forward?
Yeah, within the plan going forward, absolutely.
Okay. Gotcha. So we'll skip on then, because there was a couple events that I questioned, but I know you'll find them. They're nothing.
Well, they may not be nothing, but
Oh,
you never.
I'm hoping not.
Yeah.
But okay, so again, estimated impact fees should have been around roughly 2.7 million in noted commitments to two utility projects
Yeah.
coming up the school water line and the residence road
Yeah.
sewer. Despite that limited, no cash on hand. That's another, kind of point.
It's a big deal. I wish I had an answer for exactly what was happening there.
Right.
Again, I think the best example I think is the one I came up with, I think when you were up here last time, but the checking account. And so you have your own personal checking account, right? You know that you need to save, you've got $500 in it, but you know you need to save $100 of that for rent next month. But then there's this giant awesome TV for the Super Bowl coming up. And you look in your bank account, even though in your head you remember that you got to save that $100. You look at that TV and you're like, oh, that's only $300. I'll be fine. I've got the money in my account. You spend it, not realizing that that $100 is now no longer there because you spent it on this TV, right? And now you don't have enough money for food or whatever, right? And I think that's something everybody can relate to, no matter how fiscally conscious you are, is looking at the number in your account and not remembering everything that number is supposed to cover. Even though you know it, you don't always remember it, right?
Right.
And I think that's the easiest way to kind of explain the problem with pooled cash.
Simply
Right.
put.
Yeah.
Right. I got you. So again, we discussed last conversation on the 22nd, the Omega base tiers, was marked expired, not inactive. You guys were unaware. Can you confirm today the current status, last filed report?
I cannot. I did not
We didn't look.
have time to look into that.
10-4. Yeah, I think we're finishing up here. Again, explain it. We talked about, and you explained the annual audit material, which may have missed some of the restricted fund misuse, if any. Will you recommend to council a targeted engagement RFP, of course, along with potential, Qs and Ps that need to happen? Focused on the restricted fund tracing for the last 36 months, with a trigger for deeper forensic procedures if red flag clusters occur.
So that will definitely be part of the recommendation for the, if we do if we can't do it in-house, which honestly right now looks unlikely.
Right.
When we go out to procure the contracted accounting services, that will be the biggest thing is getting all of those funds corrected, and determining what they should be. Now that will be solely focused on this current fiscal or the fiscal year that just ended.
Right.
However, as part of that, it will give us a great idea of the past.
Right.
Right. If there are irregularities in there and they're not so obvious that I can just, oh, here's exactly what happened. Right. Then that's an excellent choice to pursue via a forensic audit.
Okay.
Again, it's hard for me to speak to a specific on that without knowing what is found.
Right.
Right. It may be stuff that's super complicated, or it may be they just didn't pay attention. And so it's like the forensic audit wouldn't identify anything beyond, yeah, they just didn't pay attention.
That's tough.
And in that case, forensic audit's not going to be that valuable if it's just, they just treated it like this. Like we can take that to, a civil litigation without needing a forensic audit to validate that or whatever everybody wants to do. Right.
What would cost more, litigation or said audit that may not really be that in depth if it is what it is, right?
Probably, given the size of the dollar amounts, honestly, the litigation might be cheaper. But that's something I would only be able to say for certain once I have everything. And yeah, I try very hard not to say a definitive answer to things that
No worries.
that I don't know.
No worries.
So
I hear you. So just give you the last page, just a couple recommendations or supporting stuff would be awesome. Other than that, that's all I got, brother.
all right.
I appreciate your time once more. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Number 2. Hello.
My name is Ivy Strong. I moved to Marque about 3.5 years ago. So there are things that I hear people talk about that happened before I was here. Things that seem to be a continuation. One of the things that I did after watching your last meeting is I went back on YouTube and looked at some of the last council meetings where they presented the audit results. In the council meeting from 2023, when the auditor was here with, I believe, our new finance director, and I don't remember her name. One of the things that really concerned me is when the council was speaking to our finance director. She said that she had brought someone in from the outside to help reconcile the accounts. And she was looking forward to this outside person teaching her and her accountant to how to reconcile the accounts. You can see it on YouTube. It's there. That's very concerning for me.
That statement is very concerning to me.
So one of the questions I have from that is how confident we are in past years reconciliations after audits, after journal entries were recommended and made? How confident we are in past years closed?
I'm not overly confident, which is why the first reconciliation we need to do is to the most recent completed audit to our current system. Right. That addresses those concerns as best we can right now. I still have not seen the reconciliation that was done for the last year. But I was aware that they had to bring somebody in. That always, I know we're talking about doing that now, but that's more of a like get it done type of thing.
Yes.
And I will also review and ensure that they are all good. People will see them.
Mhm.
But no, reconciliations should be able to be done. We are in an unfortunate position where we've got to do if you count all of them individually, hundreds of reconciliations
Yes.
in a couple of months, and that just requires more
Manpower.
manpower than we can currently have to devote. But the intention is for starting this fiscal year, getting someone in that we can actually move forward in-house.
Okay.
And all reconciliations, like everything else in finance, will be reviewed. Everything right now goes through me,
Okay.
and I intend to keep it that way for as long as the city will still have me. And then reconciliations is something that we should be able to make public, at least in a summary level. I don't know, we'll be able to make all the detail public, but at least the summary of everything so people can see, these are the types of adjustments that needed to be made this month.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be a problem to make public. So that's, again, another thing we can do going forward. Since we don't know what existed going back, I can't make them public.
Yeah.
Going back. But yes, that's a very scary statement.
I rewound it twice to make sure that I heard it correctly.
But yes, my confidence level is not high. That's why every time I talk about information from the system, I'm very upfront about that. We just can't trust that information. I'm not saying all of it's wrong. In fact, my guess would be probably 70 to 75% is right. I just don't know what 75% that is.
Yeah.
Right. And so it becomes very difficult for me to say, well, this is right it's why we focus so much right now on the cash, because the cash is a real number.
Yes.
Right. And that's why we've been focusing on it. That's why we've been making it so public and kind of building all our plans based around cash itself. One, because you can't pay a bill, even if your accounting system says you have money, if you don't actually have cash. People don't take, but my accounting system says there's money there.
Yes.
In lieu of payment. It'd be awesome if they did, but I suspect that would be its own level. And they don't typically take barter, right?
Yeah.
I can't trade them chickens or anything to, pay off those bills. So cash is king, and that's why we've been so focused on cash since I got here, as a way of kind of communicating what our current situation is because that's the only thing that I can say, this is a real thing. This is tangible. I can trust what this says. I'm not saying there's never been a mistake in the bank accounts, but it's unlikely there's major mistakes
Yes.
in the bank accounts.
Okay. The next thing that I wanted to talk about for a forensic audit scope is fixed assets.
Ooh, good one.
I have a couple of questions. I'll spit them out and then you can answer them.
Sure.
So my first question is, do we have a current fixed asset inventory? Do we know where everything's located, where it's at? Hold on, I've got more.
Okay.
Was there a past one? And what is your threshold for fixed assets? Is it a monetary value? Is it a type of equipment? I've been places where people buy 50 cases of paper and they classify that as a fixed asset and depreciate it. So that's my question. Is it all electronics or fixed assets? Is it if something's over a certain dollar amount? And then do we have a current inventory versus a past or, a past accounting for all fixed assets?
So we have a inventory that the auditors created for us. I do not believe it is perfectly accurate because it's very difficult for somebody who isn't going out and validating everything for it to be
You need to
perfectly
put eyes on each
accurate.
asset.
So that is one of my goals to eventually get. It's just less
Important.
prescient right now than some of the other items. I mean, there might be one somewhere in a file somewhere that I haven't seen but there's not one that's just like everybody knows about and it's just
Yes.
running, right? Certainly not one that's updated on a daily basis or even a monthly basis to account for depreciation or, buying
Yeah.
new things. It is one of my goals is to create a position that's one of their duties, and tie it with some other areas that fit very neatly with that, like fleet management and that kind of thing. That's a further down the road kind of goal.
Mhm.
Uh, we, in terms of what is an asset, since we, are a city in Texas, we use, or I assume, I don't want to speak plainly, that we've been using the comptroller's requirements, which is both a dollar threshold and a useful life threshold.
Okay.
It has to meet both. Um, so that threshold for dollar value varies from 1,000 to 5,000, depending on what type
Type of asset.
asset it is, and the useful life is a year or more. Again, with some variations on what type of asset it
Okay.
is. And it's expected useful life, not actual useful life, which is um,
Mhm.
a, uh, and then there's I don't think we have been capitalizing anything like big screen TVs or anything. I assume we've been expensing those as opposed to capitalizing them, but I don't know. Given how much they cost now, my guess is that they were under
Mhm.
the required threshold.
One of the things that, there are tons of rumors and innuendo and everything going around the city.
Sure.
So as part of a scope in a forensic audit, can we look at, this piece of equipment should cost 150,000, but yet we bought two of them for $600,000? Are we, and do we have a policy in place saying we can't do business with family, that kind of thing?
I,
And then do we even know where it's located? Because part of that whole thing is we bought two of these, one's gone, one was found at someone's house. I know it's
so
all confusing, but I think it's,
so I can walk you through the process that
Mhm.
we are going to implement.
Mhm.
So uh, this has already started on the IT side. Is we are going and identifying every piece of IT equipment we have, whether it would be capitalized or not.
Okay.
We are then going to record serial numbers, track all of that. We are going to have a tracking sheet that notes when it was purchased, its purchase amount, whether it's capitalized or not, but also who it's tied to,
Mhm.
right? So like I have like a lot of employees here that have to be on call. I have a city phone,
Mhm.
right? Um, and so that city phone in the tracking sheet will be tied to me. Um, the monitors in my office will be tied to my office, not to me, because they're not portable. They're tied to a location, not a person. But every single thing will be tied to either a location or a person. Or if it's not tied to either of those, it will be in a storage location. It will be tied to that storage
Mhm.
location. Um, uh, the goal would be to get all of that tracked and then just maintain that going forward, right? And then we will do a similar thing with the rest of our fixed assets, right?
Okay.
All the we do have our fleet is managed a little bit better than the rest of the fixed assets, but we will track all of the fixed assets um, and make sure that, and then that will be a public document that anyone can look at once it's up and running.
Does your new system, I've worked with systems that actually print barcodes and everything ties in. Does your new system do that?
The new system does not do the barcodes, however, it does allow you to track
Okay.
assets. You just can't go
Scan them.
scan them.
Okay.
That's something that can be bolted on, but we don't have that.
It's a
Um,
fantastic piece to add to
it's a
the
really
accounting
cool.
software.
It is a really cool piece. It also costs a little bit more money,
Mhm.
and so given everything right now, it's a wish, not an active. But yes, we are working towards that. I hate saying that
Mhm.
the answer to every question is no, or we're
Yeah.
working on it. But
You have to rebuild at this point.
yes, we're doing everything we can to address all those issues. We are aware of them. We do have the auditors list, but I don't feel comfortable making that public because
You don't,
I
yeah.
don't, yeah, it's more than a year old. I don't want to commit to saying it's entirely accurate, given, again, it's someone else's attempt to put that together. But yes, that is, so what I would say is the first thing to do there is not a forensic audit, it's to just actually get the list.
Yes, but it can tie into credit cards and things
So,
like that. Because if people are
yes.
purchasing equipment with credit cards, they're not
I do
using
think
here or?
from a forensic audit's perspective, when it relates to assets, I actually think the better way to approach it is through the purchase mechanism,
Hmm.
whether that's credit card, POs, those types of things, as opposed to the asset itself, is to target the purchase mechanism.
Does the city require all purchases have a purchase order?
No, they do not. If you're going to, I'm not 100% certain on what the theoretical process was
Mhm.
previously. I know you could get a purchase order previously. The way we are working to set up the new system, and it is still, being set up, it's not 100% up and running, is that every purchase that requires a check will have to get a purchase order. We are hoping that will be fully live in
Mhm.
November. Again, the system just came online, so we're still
Mhm.
working out pieces. And unfortunately, I wasn't here for the year-long prep of it, so I didn't get to
Do the training.
do
and
it. Well, I actually know how to use the system, but I didn't get
Good.
to prep with everybody else or do all the things that we would normally set up ahead of time because I wasn't
here.
here. But the way that will work is anything that's going to be paid through a check will have to will go through requisitions. That requisition gets approved by by 4 levels. The first level is a budget check. It has to have money in that budget line item for that amount
Okay.
to be approved. Once it passes that, it goes to the department head of that department for approval. It then goes to the finance director for approval, and then the city manager for approval. So no PO is created unless it passes all 4 of those tests.
Okay.
No check will be written unless it passes unless a PO is created, and then the invoice ties to the check, right? So that's one primary way we purchase goods. The second primary way we purchase goods is through purchase cards. We are aggressively changing the way those are done. So the way it will happen, again, we're still kind of in the middle of shifting that process. We have brought in to the finance department almost all the credit cards. There's still a couple out there for things where people need emergencies on the weekends. A good example is we recently had an ambulance blow a tire over the weekend, and so they have a credit card currently, a purchase card to buy those because they can't come check one out
Yeah.
over the weekend, right? Or at least I don't want to have to come up here every time somebody needs to come check out a credit card over the weekend for emergency situations like that. So there are a couple still out there for those situations. We're working on a way to tighten up controls over that as well. But the way it will work right now is basically you have to come in and sign in a credit card, let us know what you're doing, and use it. The way it will work once we get the full system going forward is there'll be an actual full page document that you fill out that denotes who you are, what your department is, what account codes you're using, where you're going, how much you anticipate it being, not an exact amount, but
Yeah.
a rough amount. And then before we hand the credit card out, one of our staff in finance will actually review the budget on those line items to make sure those line items pass a budget check before we give you a card to go make a purchase.
Okay.
And then there'll be a place for the finance person to sign saying, yes, these pass the budget check. Credit card is, I keep saying credit card, it's purchase card,
Yeah.
not exactly the same. Those would then be, that card would then be given to the individual to go make the purchase. They would then have to bring back that card with a receipt.
What were the previous? So your challenge is not necessarily what you're doing today, but years past. What was the previous policy with credit cards? Did they require receipts? Did
So-
they?
My understanding of the policy is that you still were required to provide a receipt and an account number at the end of each month when they were reviewing the statement, is
Okay.
my understanding. I don't know how diligent
That was, and if it was.
they were.
followed.
Also, in the past, credit cards were assigned to a role or a department, and so there would be like a police chief credit card or a finance credit card or that type of thing, right? And they were not like all kept locked up in finance,
Yeah.
behind doors that require multiple locks. They were just in people's, I assume, wallets. I don't think we gave them a separate wallet for it, but so way less controlled.
Okay.
So again, we are aggressively addressing that. The third way that purchases are, so the third way that purchases are made that we don't yet have a great way to put a control on, but we're working on are, we do have some accounts at stores where people can go at, typically like the Lowe's, that places like that,
Require a purchase order for
um,
those.
that typically the way my goal is to have an open purchase order for those, where every time a purchase is made, you bring that receipt back and it goes against that open PO. We have not established that as a policy yet because we're still working through how we want to handle that. But if one of our technicians needs to go buy a 3-inch nut, right? Taking the time to get a requisition or come get a credit card, those kind of things take time where it's like,
Yeah.
they got to stop this water leak, right? So they just got to go. So that's why those accounts exist there, so that service can be provided in a reasonable time frame.
Okay.
And so we're still working on figuring out what the exact policy on that is going to be. There's different options. And I want to make sure that the option that we choose is the one that's going to work best for the city and its current situation before I fully commit us to something. But it will follow the same level of process, right? Budget will be checked as early in the process as possible. And then obviously worked against some back-end approval chain.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Number 3. See.
One of the things I wanted to ask is, one of the things I learned about forensic audits and the routine audit is, like you said earlier, the routine audit, they're not looking for fraud and corruption. It would have to meet a massive threshold.
Massive might be a minor overstatement, but a threshold, but yes, a notable threshold.
A notable threshold. So, but get into that. Every city independently would have to create their own threshold, which to my understanding, we don't have a threshold.
So it's not based on the city. It's based on the size of the dollar amount being audited. It's a prescribed formula in auditing. It's a
So-
materiality limit.
But the city could say we have a $50,000 threshold. So if there's anything, look for things over 50,000. If it's under 50,000, they don't look for it.
We could, there's an actual calculation in the audit handbooks that actually determine how you determine materiality. I could provide that to you if you'd like. It's kind of a boring big formula, but we could request that they reduce that materiality. We can't request they go bigger because then they're violating audit standards and there would be an unapproved audit, which they obviously wouldn't do. We can request that they lower their materiality. That would increase costs of the audit as a result, which is a fine thing to do. That it would be the process.
Yeah, I'm curious to what it would be. An example that I was going through is like, it was in Pennsylvania where a city clerk was able to steal like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but she never broke the $50,000 threshold. So she kept it under, 49,000, 39,000, but over several years, she was able to get hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if we could make public whatever that threshold is currently for us. And then the other thing would be, as we're talking about equipment and fleet management and stuff, if we could go back and monitor where these trucks have been on the weekends and in the evenings, I think it's going to be quite surprising to the city of Lamarck where some of these vehicles are going and traveling, and give us an idea. I don't know if we've had tracking systems for years, which the city's denied previously in open records, but we do have a tracking system. It's through Verizon on some of the trucks.
I don't know if it's on every vehicle.
Correct. Or the equipment.
Yeah.
So what trucks are going where? Is it pulling a piece of equipment? I think that everything needs to be trackable or something. We need to be able to trace it. But that's something else I'd look into, is the tracking as many vehicles as we possibly can, where they going, where they've been, weekends, after hours. And also something to look into would be, there's like Verizon, you can adjust your speed. So if they're going, I think we had a truck going like 79 miles an hour one time down Highway 3. That kind of stuff would help the city better maintain our, I guess, our employees and stuff like that. So if we could look at what kind of thresholds we have, stuff like that for tracking the vehicles, and also, maybe down into the speeds and stuff like that, it would be.
Yeah. So, all good suggestions, all things, I know, we recently, let go of an employee for, poor use of a fleet vehicle. I think that was within the last 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks. So, we do track that when we are aware of something. I can say, my goal is to have a session on this at some point in the near future. We are fundamentally making a bunch of changes to our fleet management setup and how we're running fleet, and all of that, and what fleet we have. So you've seen, I don't know if people saw, but we sold 4 trucks,
Mhm.
right? They were the trucks that had the most resale value, which is why we chose to sell them. Made the most sense, got us the most cash to use from a fleet management standpoint. That cash is tied to fleet, so we can't just pull it and use it to pay another bill. It is locked into that setup. But we are developing a long-term fleet plan. And again, I can go into more detail of that in a future session about fleet that I'm hoping to have in November, maybe, because there are going to be a lot of changes people see on that. In terms of the trackers, I'd have to see what we have, how many we have. I would not recommend buying trackers right now. However, one thing we have already started working to change is mass reduction in take-home vehicles. And so, if you're don't meet a specific thing, if you're not on call, you don't need a take-home vehicle, right? And so, like, we've got our on-call people in public works that come out and do emergencies over the weekend. We have our on-call people at the sewage plant, and we have on-call fire, police, those types of things. But if you're not an on-call person, you don't need there's no need for a take-home vehicle. So we've restricted that back. So there should not be people that aren't doing work, driving vehicles on the weekends anymore. That shouldn't be happening. If you see one, let us know, because that's something we'll want to look into. So that's like the first, step, is kind of just trying to re-get control of that. We're also reducing, so crews, they're going to be in one truck, not each on their own, right? So, we are working on cleaning that up and trying to kind of address those issues. As we find additional funds in those areas, that allows us to then fix some of the fleet issues that we have, right? One example that I'm sure you're aware of is our police vehicles are all pretty old.
Very.
And so that's one of the things that we're looking at, is options that we can spend funds on. But another, just a quick aside on that is, one of the other things we're looking at is downsizing, right? A lot of our staff don't need big full-size trucks to do their
Right.
jobs, right? So we're looking at downsizing all the way down to like the little trucks, like Mavericks or whatever, right? And then unfortunately, we can't buy used Mavericks because we have the enterprise contract. Everything has to be new, but it's still cheaper for us to have fuel and maintain a new Maverick than it is for us,
Full-size truck.
those old big trucks. So the city can make out a change like that and actually save money despite getting new vehicles on the road.
Good.
Um,
Now, does Enterprise offer any type of tracking with their fleet, or no?
I would have to get back to you on that. I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't, this is the first place I've used Enterprise. My guess is they have some level of tracking, but it might not be something they can access unless it's emergency. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But-
All right. Excellent.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Number 4. Nice. Yeah. Thank you. My parents will be very proud.
Yes, sure. I only got 5 questions.
Make sure to speak into the mic.
Okay, I got you. Only have 5 questions. And these questions, all of these questions come from a don't raise taxes standpoint. I can tell you that for sure.
All right.
As well as that they come from the businessman and I've earned myself to be, and they try to stay true to your, all the stuff you got on the internet already. As far as the exclusivity and standstill, will the council adopt a 45-day exclusivity and standstill resolution naming qualified citizens, businessmen, women, whatever you want that to be, as a sole counterparty to negotiate a non-tax revenue note, bundle, concessions, package, performance-based financial ops, everything you said in your write-up then, from a professional services concessions ordinance path with automatic tolling if the meeting is recessed continue to city manager to where DRIs are the financial director and the city manager itself.
So we can propose that. That's not a decision I can tell you.
Yeah, so all my questions are proposals disguised as questions. I can guarantee you that for sure. Yes.
So that is certainly something we can propose. I'd need to look at it in more detail. Given our current situation, we may want to make some minor tweaks to the standard language to allow for a little bit more flexibility.
Absolutely.
But I'm fine. I mean, my guess is you read that directly off of a standardized controls form.
100% of your documents. I read all 181 pages.
So that's the kind of thing where, yes, that's like in a normal functioning, everything's good environment. That is the best practice. But in our current situation, we do need a little bit more nimbleness. But I mean, we can absolutely recommend that. I would propose recommending that probably in January, February. Let us try and survive the next few months before we get there. I mean, they're very good oversights.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to say we don't want oversight on anything, but the ability to move faster than the 45-day window
Right.
and all of that is important right now for some of the things we're trying to do because we need to do them in under 45 days to save the city. So,
Right, no doubt.
so that's why there. It's not about trying to avoid things. I'm hoping that everybody can see.
Okay. Just let me put my shirt down.
Oh, okay. I'm hoping that people can see that we are trying to be transparent and putting
Right.
stuff out there. So again, we're not hiding anything. But yes, I'm happy to recommend that once we're stable and we can actually afford to wait those timeframes. I don't have any problems with that. Whether council will go for that, no idea.
Well, that's why they voted in. We'll figure it out. So you're gonna like my other 4 questions is because cash flow is king. You mentioned a data room inside the documents in 5 business days, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Will that be open source, secured 13-week cash room, data room, obviously NDAs, bank recs, et cetera? You understand where I'm going from here? Like, do we got a plan for that? As far as-
Yes, and that's kind of addressing multiple different things. But yes, once we can get in a stable place,
Right.
those are the kind of things you want to build in. It prevents a run from a bad employee. It also helps ensure additional fund security on all accounts. And so those are excellent practices, especially around accounts you don't use
Yep.
on a frequent basis. They're not always the best on your main account that you use 50 times a day, but on the other ones, they do have a lot of value. So again, I don't have any issues with that. Again, I would say let us get a little further along before we try and put something like that in. And let's actually start breaking out those other accounts and then tying those accounts to those types of things.
For sure, for sure. Well, I can skip these other ones because they all in the same line. But you can tell the way I think. So I guess my last question would be that there's a few people in Lamarck that are quite savvy in business and finances. Will we be reaching out to said people to get some proposals like this after you stabilize, so we never have to be back here again?
I'm absolutely happy to do that. We do already have a finance committee
Oh, yeah.
with 2 members, 2 citizens that
Absolutely.
are on the committee. That committee is not going to meet in public because we will be presenting information that is confidential in nature. That way, you know, people besides me can see that information and understand what's going on. We do intend for that committee to produce a report that goes to council every time it meets. Right now, we are hoping that it will meet before the council meeting on the 8th or 10th. I forget which day it is in November. So my hope is that it'll have a report for council then. Whether that report contains recommended actions or not, I'm not 100% certain. Mostly I want to use that meeting just so people can kind of understand the situation. I can walk everybody in there through all the information we have, everything that's going on at a more detailed level, and kind of show how everything kind of fits in. But yeah, that is something we have going forward. We are always looking for more citizens to apply, and then we may do like 1-year terms. That hasn't really been discussed, kind of what that would look like. It is an ad hoc committee right now. I do hope one day that it becomes a permanent thing. It's very important to have a finance committee, even if it just meets quarterly, once we're stable and everything. Right now, I'm pushing for it to meet much more often than that. But,
No doubt.
but yeah, no, I'm happy for any of those things to be put in. The more policies, the more controls you can have, the better, the more people can trust what's going on. And you know, as an example, I'll piggyback off what Councilman Lowry said. So the example you brought up about the lady in Pennsylvania stealing multiple money. So there's a very famous example in the finance world of this. So banks about, I want to say it was about 10 years ago, but maybe it's slightly longer than that, changed the federal requirement for review of any deposit or check that is written to $10,000. And so many illegal entities started having $9,999 things. Obviously, it took the federal government a little bit of time to realize that was going on. So they subtly changed it to 9,000. It took then the criminals a little while to figure that went on. And so that game has been played where they always look for whatever that amount is and go just a little bit below that. So there's always an amount where somebody's going to be willing to go in and slow burn you over a long period of time. But some of these protections actually protect against that, right? The 5-day delay in this secure piece would make it so that we would have the ability to check and validate things like that before they happen. So an instance like you're referring to is something we could actually catch in real time because it'd be sitting in a hold during that time, and we'd be able to go in and ask, well, what is this? Why is this here? Before money actually moved on. So yes, a lot of these have value, and they're specifically designed to protect entities. Unfortunately, they're specifically designed to protect entities that are stable, have cash, don't have to like, we got to make sure this happens really quick. For an example, the RFP for the accounting services, right? We can't have a 45-day hold and review on that. That just like, that takes us out of the window we're trying to meet, right? So,
Do we currently do open sources to where we find people first before we even do an RFP?
on some occasions, especially if we don't anticipate there being a lot of response, that does not mean that they get the contract, right?
Right,
Like
right.
there's still RFP and RFQ rules
right.
on all of those things. I'm not saying all of them have done perfectly in the past. I'm just saying there are rules for those things, even beyond that set.
I just saw the police department put one out maybe 2 months ago. I saw
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I get all that stuff.
So yeah, so I'm happy to bring all of that forward. I would love to bring all of that forward through the finance committee as recommendations,
That'll work.
but I would just like to wait until I don't have to check every day to see how much money we have in the bank.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And my last thing, I just want to go on record. So if you can, there's plenty of people like me. I know for sure the first gentleman seems pretty astute. We can help. There's some business savvy people in this city that's got more than enough resources and more than enough monetary resources, liquid, etc. But I have no idea how to help Lamarck. It's not actual, this the curtain to walk through. It's not much of a curtain. It's a concrete wall.
So, I'm happy to talk about ways to help Lamarck, but let's do it in a different forum. That way because we're running out of time and I don't want
Sounds good to me.
to, let anybody else, but we can definitely, let people know, that it is not always the city of Lamarck trying to be complicated. Some of it is rules that, are inflicted upon us that we have to,
Fair enough.
to make work, but, and I appreciate
Appreciate you.
it tremendously. Is that it? All right. So if anybody else has any questions, we got about 10 minutes left. I am more than happy to provide my best answers. You're welcome to come up here, or we can bring a mic to you. I guess if anybody has any questions, if you can raise your hand, we'll bring a mic. If nobody's got any questions, then sorry. Well, it's for the people online. listening.
Okay. Who is performing the forensic audit and what is the budget for that audit and how are we going to pay for it?
Okay,
Because
so
as an ex-banker, I know that they're not cheap.
they are very expensive. So as of right now, there is not a forensic audit that has started. Part of this meeting is to figure out what scopes are desired and needed for a proposal. As this is our second meeting, I've got a long list. We're going to publicize that list. We'll then talk about it with the finance committee, and maybe even another public meeting where we kind of walk through, this is everything. This is I'm going to go in and try and prioritize what I think makes the most sense to start with and work through. And then we'll talk to everybody before we move forward. But then beyond that, there are two ways that it can happen. The first is waiting for me to find time to come in and do a forensic audit. I am certified and qualified to do that, but I also have a trillion other duties that are also on my plate. That is certainly the cheaper method, but it is the slower method. The other method that we will do is we will group a set of them together, either as individual RFPs or RFQs, depending on what we're trying to accomplish. There's different unique rules for whether you use a RFP or RFQ. Or we will group them all in one and allow free choice from responding entities, right? So we'll put 4 scopes together in the same RFP and allow responding entities to basically send a response either as a group, individually. They want to do 2, but not the other 2. And so we'll kind of walk through all of that, and then we'll present that to council for them to make a determination on. In terms of paying for that, that would go out to any responding entity, right? So that could be like Whitley Penn, the accounting firm. If they have, I'm actually sure if they have somebody that is qualified to do them, but any of the big 4 firms, which all have offices in Houston, right, would have the staff to do them. In terms of paying for them, there's 2 answers to that. The first answer is, as part of the RFP, we have to denote what payment methodology, like where the funds are coming from. It's required as part of that. As of right now, we would basically say that it would either be from future taxes or donated funds. I don't know that anybody's going to donate the kind of money we need to do one of these, but there isn't money in the budget for one for this year. So it would have to come from a future revenue source. Tax rate is the only one that I can guarantee will exist. So it would be a 0.05 cent tax rate increase in a future year to cover it would be one theoretical option. But that's something we have to discuss with council as part of the RFP and make sure everybody is aware of. We're not committing to doing it, even if we get responses. If for example, if the bid comes back for reviewing everything in impact fees, right? That was one of the restricted funds that we were talking about earlier, right? It's a very, very, very restricted fund. Um, uh, if that comes back at $250,000 to do the forensic audit, right? That's the point where we would have to then talk with council and all the citizens and say, this is what came back. It costs $250,000. The city doesn't have $250,000. So the only two options are an outside source coming in to cover it or a tax rate increase in the following year. I would love to have better funding options. Unfortunately, as of right now, I don't. But it also depends, right? If we want to audit fuel cards, right? That was one of the areas. And we even further restrict the scope beyond that to fuel cards used by, salaried staff over these 2 fiscal years, right? That might come in at, $10,000 to $15,000. But we might be able to then move some money in a line item to do that, right? So in a budget line item that already exists. But I won't know that until we actually get a response for how much they would want to charge.
So this is not a forensic audit on the entire city of Lamarck. This is just fractional
Yes.
forensic audit.
So you can't actually go out and do a forensic audit of the entire entity. That's not a legal, it is not an accounting acceptable scope for a forensic audit. You have to give it parameters. You have to give it a scope. And so that's what we've been working on here, is to define scopes that people want looked at that are specific in nature and duration. That way we can go out and give it and get responses back.
Okay, because there's a misunderstanding among my neighbors in my community on exactly, they think that the forensic audit team's gonna come in like they do at a financial institution or any other business. And, you have 25 suits come in and tear everything apart and find out what's going on. But this way, it'll be so that I understand it correctly, we perform a regular audit
Correct.
and then take fractions of that to look at forensically.
Yes, we are. So we are identifying specific scopes that we can put out for bid that are more targeted, that are actually performable. Again, you can't send it out for everything. You could send out 1,000 scopes all in one RFP that would cover theoretically everything, but that's 1,000 separate scopes. And what I can tell you is that would come back at a number that the city would have a heart attack over if we sent out 1,000 scopes. Yeah, my initial guess on a number like that would probably be like $20 million.
I mean, surely we wouldn't just narrow it down to fuel card and said person. That wouldn't really benefit the city. And then should we be talking about numbers, comparatively speaking, theoretical numbers right now to, persuade the community right now or cause public dissent?
I would, so I think
I'm just saying
yeah.
because, we are concerned about the money. And then when you say 250 to 10 to 15, well, that's just one guy. It's probably a couple $100. I'm not worried. I'm worried about the millions. So I'd be kind of careful on that.
So that was part of this. We're trying to kind of educate people on what it does, how it works. When I go through and put priority pieces on this list, my priorities will be on the bigger, more concerning, higher dollar areas, because those are the areas that are the most important to know the answer to, right? And that I suspect citizens will care about more. I was just using fuel cards as an example, because it's one area that, people have brought up that they do and expect people have done, some stuff wrong in. You're right. We would likely find, I don't know, maybe $1,000 of bad transactions over the course of 4 years. I don't know. I mean, but we would also almost certainly find something.
Sure.
Because fuel cards are notorious for people doing stuff wrong.
So can we just, what will you be able to weigh the benefits of, okay, we
Yeah.
do this, might find a couple $1,000 stolen, maybe, or misused.
Part of my
or
priority
a
will,
couple 100,000 or millions that were misused and misapplied.
yeah, so my priority will include, this is kind of the dollar amounts we're talking about. And then I'll try and put like a rough estimate of what I think it would cost, what I think it might find. Again, those will be rough estimates and guesses, just based on historical precedent, not even Lamarck, just based on kind of the results of those kinds of forensic audits that have been done in the past.
Thank
Right.
you.
But yeah, we can definitely add that information, and then we'll come back, and I don't know if it'll be in a session like this or if it'll be in front of council in a way where we can have public comment and everything. I haven't quite figured that out yet. But yeah, the citizens will be involved, council will be involved. This is not going to be a me unilateral decision. I'm providing my expertise to try and help shape and form it into something that can actually become real. Because it's what people want. People want to know. And we do have to be quick, just because time.
So what's stopping us from asking, we know there's been mistakes. We know there's been errors. What's stopping us from saying, and when people started talking about a forensic audit years ago, it was, oh my gosh, it's going to be, 1 million and 3 million and 10 million. Well, what's stopping us from going to the Attorney General and say, look, we've got mistakes. We don't know where they're at. We need help. Come in. Invite them in instead of them forcing their way in. Or even the state auditing firms. Why don't we invite them in? Maybe it's discounted rate. Maybe there is no rate for it. Saying, look, we made mistakes. There's errors. Help us find it. And then we're saving the taxpayers money. So what's stopping the city of Lamarque from approaching these government agencies that have oversight and inviting them in versus them forcing their way in?
So technically nothing. I would say that that's not an action I can unilaterally take on my own, right? That should be a recommendation from either the council or finance committee or some other entity to me. I do, without a specific recommendation, I do not feel comfortable using my contacts at those places because I don't want anybody to feel like I am putting my finger on a scale in any way. The AG, I think we would have to provide more detail to get them to come in, because this is not the type of thing they would, this is much bigger than something that they would normally devote resources to. Just in a general sense. Similarly for the state auditor's office, they would come in and look at us, but they would perform much more of a financial audit unless you get into their specific task force. That is the fraud specific task force. And then while they can come in and look at like major parts of an entity, we would need to give them a little bit more. We would still need to give them like guidance, right? We can't say, hey, there's been bad, please come save. They're all going to respond the same way, which is we need more information. Like we need examples, we need rough like places to start, those kind of things, which is very similar to the scopes we've been defining out, right? We absolutely could take the scope list and send it to the AG. We could send it to the state auditor's office. Depending on some of these things, we could send it to the SEC. Some of them could go to the FBI. You have to figure out what agency is actually over that area, because one thing that all entities like that get very prickly about is territory, and so we wouldn't want to, upset people like that by sending them things that they couldn't do or in other entities. But I mean, there's nothing else where I will say it's unlikely that it would be done for free. Unless it is like directly criminal level stuff. And for them to come for that, they probably would already need to have some level of reasonable idea of where they're targeting. And again, as we discussed last time, a lot of this would be difficult to do in a criminal sense.
And you know, I guess one of the things to look at too is, you know, one person buying lunch, is it criminal? Probably. Are we going to do anything? Probably not. But if you got 50 people doing it 3 or 4 times a week, at the end of the year, that's where it has up. Is it fraud? Yes. Is it something they're going to look at? Probably not. Is it corruption? Yes. I mean, is it happening? Yes. But so there's got to be, I think there's got to be cooperation from the city instead of, oh, there's nothing here. You know, we got to be a little bit more honest with the public and then probably these state agencies in order to get them to come in. I think if we're not being truthful with them or the public saying that these things aren't happening, they're probably not going to step in.
Well, so I do think, so this meeting streamed live, going to be available on YouTube forever. I know you uploaded the last meeting on YouTube. We're working on trying to have it from our end as well and actually create like an actual, I'm blanking on the word, a write out of everything that was said in the meeting. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on transcript of the meeting. So those will be available in public. In terms of sending it to those agencies, again, I think it will drastically help your chances or the city's chances, if we have focused things. We say, we're not sure of everything, but we have very high suspicions of this and this and this. And that way they can, you know, have an area to start and bite their teeth into. And then they can always expand if they find more, right? But giving them a place to start is the way to go. And again, in terms of which agencies, I could provide a theoretical list of who might be interested in different pieces. But I will, on that end, you always have, with those agencies, the other thing you have to remember is they are also looking to gain something from this that is more than just, oh, we did a good job, right? So they're going to want a story. They're going to want something put in the paper, right? An arrest of note, something like that. They're really going to want something like that as a, you know, an apple on the cart. I don't know that we can promise them anything like that. And while La Marque is a great city, it is also not Houston or you know, Dallas. It's not even Galveston in its, you know, its, you know, length of existence and heritage. Again, nothing against La Marque. It's just certain cities have a sexier appeal to just their name. And so, you know, we would need to be like going out with those things. We would need to craft them carefully, similar to what we're talking about with these RFPs, right? You need to really take your time and make it enticing if you're going to reach out to those entities, because they receive thousands of random Billy Joe is stealing tractors kind of complaints, right? That doesn't even say where or what, like, so, you know, they have very aggressive mechanisms to weed out all of the trash. You got to give them something to like really grasp onto, to get action. And even then you can't, again, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Again, we appreciate everybody coming in. Again, we are going to try and do a lot more of these on a lot of different topics. So keep coming forward, keep asking questions. Thank you so much. And we are going to fix it to start council time. So if everybody can kind of exit and come back in so we can kind of, you know, clean house, rearrange real quick. You can come like right back in, but, you know, just give us a little chance to do that.